Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the 11th annual Culturama, our last day of this year's event. My name is Lloyd Aquino. I'm the coordinator for Culturama and the creative writing poetry professor at Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California. Today's workshop, the workshop we're currently in, is for persona poems, cosplay for the page with Betsy Mars, who you've been chatting with for the last couple of minutes. Let me introduce her really quick, and then I'll turn things over to her. Betsy Mars is a prize-winning poet, photographer, and an assistant editor at Gyroscope Review. Recent poems of hers can be found in One Art, Quartets, Sheila Nagig, and Autumn Sky. Her photos have appeared online and in print, including one which was a Rattle Ekphrastic Challenge prompt in 2019. She has two books, Alania, I hope I'm saying that right, and her most recent, co-written with Alan Wolowitz, In the Muddle of the Night. Betsy is currently working on a full-length manuscript titled Rue Obscure. So, Betsy, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, nice to meet everyone and see some of you again. This is really great. I wanted to say, I should have said yesterday, as far as Gyroscope Review, we're open for submissions until December 1st, if anyone wants to submit. There's no theme, and we'd love to see your work. And I'm just really proud of that. That was one of the many things that have gone right for me since I got into poetry, that I'm working with the other two editors who are just amazing. And I feel really fortunate about that. So I just wanted to say that up front. And then also, if you want to stay off camera, feel free. It's up to you. I love seeing people, but at the same time, I understand, sometimes I'm on camera and sometimes I'm off. And especially when I'm writing, I'm definitely off camera because I can't focus when with any people, because I'll start paying attention to what's going on. I'm going to try, I don't know if I did okay yesterday, but I'm going to try to keep on a good time schedule, and so that you have enough writing time. I don't know, for the people who were there yesterday, did you have enough time to write, or would you have liked a few more minutes? Was it enough time? Okay, I know it's sort of never enough, or it might be, okay, good. It's like, you could have more, but in a workshop, it was a lot of the time, you're just going to make a good start or get some ideas. Sometimes I just get ideas, and sometimes I'll start on several things and not really finish one. So I just want to double check that timing was okay. I wasn't actually familiar with cosplay at all until, I don't know, my daughter started talking about it in high school, and I don't know that much about it. So I thought it was kind of fun to tie in with the theme. Oh, good. Thank you. I thought it was fun to tie in with the theme of persona poems, which I had never actually tried to write until I was in that workshop in Chestertown, and they asked us to write a persona poem, and the specific way they wanted us to approach it was to take somebody unlikable and try to approach them with compassion and get inside their head. And with all the political stuff going on, and everything else in the world, it's easy to find an unlikable person to try to inhabit. But the only thing I want to say about that is I find, and in reading submissions also, it's hard to write a really subtle or nuanced poem. I mean, sometimes we'll read a submission and go, yeah, we really agree with you, but this is a little heavy-handed. Or it's even in this other workshop I attended, and even in one of the examples I gave from Patricia Smith, I know she's written, I think she had a whole book of persona poems after was it hurricane in New Orleans, and as the hurricane. And I think it's just something to be mindful of when you write a persona poem, that sometimes I have that in my one of my slides, but sort of less is more sometimes. And just, it can be fun to be really spoofy also. I'm not deterring anyone. I'm just saying, in my experience, it's very hard to do it without getting up on your soapbox or whatever. And I did one from the point of view of a nursing care home provider who was really annoyed with their privileged patient. And and it was, I think it worked okay, but it was, even then I had to go back and fix the dialect, and I didn't want to be stereotyping anybody, but I did actually come to understand how they might have been frustrated. But I'm going to give you some examples that are a little bit out there. I'm going to I'm going to try something. I'm going to put up my PowerPoint presentation that I had one going that I liked, but of course my daughter, being more high tech, did a really beautiful one, and I'm going to use hers, I hope. Tell me if you can see this. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Well, I've never used Canva, and I'm trying to figure out if there's how to enlarge there. Okay, is that better? I know yesterday I learned about zooming in, and I'm going to go forward. So the first slide we'll just go through it pretty quickly. This is just the course outline. Again, if you want the PowerPoint or just the resources, you can let me know. I can put my email in the chat, and I can send you one or both from today and yesterday and whatever you want. So we're going to go through the definition of persona poems. I don't know how much knowledge to assume. Why write persona poems? I went to Lit Youngstown, and I went to a workshop there, and they were talking about copyright and legal considerations, which I don't want to dwell on too much, but I just thought I should touch on that. Strategies and approaches, some examples, and then various possibilities, or choose your own, and then give you some time for brainstorming and writing, and then we'll share and discuss at the end, if that sounds good. Anytime you want, pop something in the chat, and then, okay. Okay, so I don't know if this is, whoa, I don't want to get it too far in. Okay, how's that? Is that a good size? Okay. So I'm gonna go, that's just the outline. And I wish I had a second screen so I can move you over. I'm gonna move you over there. You're all to my left now. Okay, so by definition, a persona poem is a poem in which this poet speaks through an assumed voice. So I guess, yeah, so it's first person generally, also known as a dramatic monologue. This poetic form shares many characteristics with the theatrical monologue. An audience is implied, there is no dialogue, and the poet takes on the voice of a character, a fictional identity or persona. So again, offered without overt analysis or commentary. So you hopefully, if you have a successful persona poem, it will convey the character without, being too on the nose about it, I guess. Okay, so I just wanted to share that. I think, as I said yesterday, I'm not the most imaginative person. So again, as with ekphrastic poetry, where art gives me a way in, I think writing a persona poem gives me another way into someone else's experience. And, again, you're always bringing yourself into the poem no matter what, but it can offer insights. And I think, these days, having compassion for others and experiencing, trying to understand other people's lived experiences is important. So also in poets.org was emphasizing that, you're making, as the writer, the poet, you're making a choice about who speaks and who doesn't. So it helps you reflect on what might be gained or lost by listening to them. Some of this, I'm sure you're all smart people and it's evident to you, but I liked this to be a reminder for myself too, that once you've experienced that, when you go back to your life, you may have a new way of viewing yourself in relation to the other, or understand people outside of your normal circle. So okay. Okay, so this is the legal thing. Generally, I don't think that poets have much to worry about, but if you are considering publication, They were emphasizing, one of the people who put on that workshop was a librarian, and she said a librarian is a very good resource to try to find out if there are possible legal repercussions. You know, it's more in the case of, they gave an example of a dog product that was called, instead of Jack Daniels, it was like something Spaniels or Bad Spaniels or something. And I guess there was a lawsuit that they brought thinking that somehow this dog toy was undermining their product's reputation, you know, and so it's generally not going to happen in poetry. They said, I forget how many, it was kind of outrageous, especially Disney, as we know, is, you know, is just a huge organization, and they have copyrights or trademarks on so many things. So, you know, just something to be aware of. Again, I don't want to harp on that, but just think about it. If you are representing, I know I was actually invited to submit to a Motown anthology, and they were saying that, you know, you couldn't use the lyrics. They were very litigious, da 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 da. So some organizations are very protective of the artist or whatever, as they should be. So just something to be mindful of. And let's see, now I have to move you to the right or down there. That's good. Okay, so another thing that they mentioned in that workshop was choosing a character that you have a connection to can bring a kind of authenticity to the work. Is there a character on TV or in a movie, in comics or wherever, with whom you share a background or who seems aligned with you? In this case, the person, I think they chose Annie Oakley. I'm trying to remember. It was really well done. And they had some historical connection, either geographically, or they had some violence in their background or whatever that they related to that particular figure. So if you choose, I already went over that about, you know, just being, try to be a little subtle, sometimes can be good unless you really want to go all out and create a parody. Think about your character's motivation. And it's fun to kind of try to create a life for them, a backstory, enlarge them. I think, you know, that's a good exercise for me because, again, I have a hard time thinking outside of my own experiences sometimes. I mean, I think I'm pretty empathetic, but at the same time, when I'm writing, I feel like I'm always writing from my, you know, myself, my backstory. So, okay, so we're going to get into just a few examples. I wanted to, you know, it's funny because I love the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and I couldn't fit the whole thing here. Um, but I had never really thought of it as a persona poem, and still I started looking for persona poems that wouldn't be as triggering. Is a lot of the persona poems are very triggering. There's some very difficult examples that, you know, are valid and they should be written, but you know, I wanted to try to stay away from some of those for this. So does someone want to read this? Any volunteers? And I can't see all of you, so anybody has a better reading voice than I do. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this poem, but I just love it. And oh, good. Yay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind. I've in fact read this one before, so um, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit.
Thank
That's all
you.
I.
I love that. Beautiful. I'd like to have gone on, but even in the beginning, I think you start seeing something about the character who's speaking, I think. What does anyone want to share anything that they notice in this? Either the approach or anything about the person who's speaking? Anyway.
It made me feel, it gave me the impression of someone saying, "Let us live while we have this moment," as if they're surrounded by some kind of death or, doom. That was my
Right. And I like how it's an invitation, and someone mentioned yesterday there was another poem that I shared that invited the reader in, and so you're sort of it invites you in, so it's kind of it's a good strategy, I think, because you're gonna pay attention if you're invited into the poem. Not that we can want to start like that all the time. Did someone else want to share something they noticed about it?
There's a lot of I'm going to say coupling, but I think I'm using that word out of context. So if the title hadn't been the love song, I think you'd still pick up that it is a love song. There's like a connection in this part of the poem where you invest deeply in the couple that's in here, even though we've only got the voice of one half. And then I also get, with all of the descriptions, the one I particularly like is the streets, the fact they lead to an overwhelming question. So you get the sense that he's talking about the relationship, but through metaphor, in a similar way that sometimes when we're trying to speak to a partner about something that's difficult, we kind of hide it underneath something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get.
That's so interesting. It's so funny because I've got to go reread this whole poem because I never thought about it. I never really thought about the title in relationship to it, which seems so obvious now. But I just thought, like, to me, to the reader, but it could be, the speaker and his love or whatever. But you go on, and if you're, familiar with the poem, and he is sort of mindful of life being short, but at the same time, he's got this I should have more here if you're not familiar with it, but it's sort of like he's so cautious, and he ends what is it, walking, he doesn't want to get his pants wet, and he doesn't want to get, I don't know, eat messy meals or things like that. And it's just to me, it just like the language too. He's got certain half deserted streets. You can really picture the area, I think, that he's walking through, and the tedious and insidious. Yeah, he's got those some kind of nice rhymes going on in there, but they're not obvious necessarily. Yeah, I don't know. I love it. It was just interesting to me that I'd never thought of it as a persona poem. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about it? Or we'll go on to another example.
just wanted to add on the
What's
back
that?
I wanted to add on the back of what you just said and what Nina said, just how now that I see it as someone trying to persuade someone else to go with them into the night, I'd love to hear the response to it, because I wonder how persuasive they actually are, with lines like a patient etherized upon a table. And it's just, it's really interesting now that when we look into it deeply.
Yeah, it's funny. So it's got Nina put the link up for the whole poem, which I think is in my oh yeah, you could write the response. That's true. You could write the response, but he's saying, okay, so it goes on to say, in the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. So there's this, very kind of intellectual, kind of snooty. He's out on the streets in these, where there are these cheap hotels and kind of shabby restaurants, and then he goes back to the room, and there are these, people having this elegant experience, I guess. And then goes back, the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. If you don't know the poem or you haven't read it in a long time, I would really recommend reading the whole thing. Where did my PowerPoint go? I don't know what I just did. Okay. Let me put it back up. I just really love that poem. And I shouldn't have gone out of that. Where'd it go? I have too many. I thought I closed enough, but I've got too many things open. Oh yeah, no, that's not it. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. What happened? I'm gonna have to reopen it, I think. It's loading. I don't know what I just did. Okay, I'm back to it. Okay, let me share again. I'm still learning this technology. Okay, so yeah, I think that's really interesting. This one, okay, so this one is quite different, and it gives you this Sean Kelbley lives not far from where I am right now, and he's a wonderful poet. And I think that I shared a couple of his ekphrastic links yesterday too. Maybe if you want that. But he's very good. And when he told me he was writing this one from the point of view of a lutefisk, which I didn't know existed, it was just so strange. And I just want to give you, this as a contrast to the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, to see you can write from the point of view of kind of anything if you can write from the point of view of a lutefisk. Does someone want to read this? Anybody? Let's see. Okay, Lydia.
Yeah, I can read it.
Thank you. Whoops, let me pull up the title and then I'll scroll down.
Okay. Lutefisk lays on the word of cod. Sorry, let me start again. Lutefisk lays the word of cod on Gretchen from Edina. When you compare me to the ugly Christmas sweaters and wield me with a brittle laugh against your ex's fiancé, you're marrying into this? When you dismiss me as the punchline of an ethnic joke, too uncool to even be a dare, and let your middle schooler eat instead the meatballs, don't act surprised when pastor finds him vaping in the bushes. I see it all from heaven, Gretchen. There's fish heaven. You have the house, the alimony, a wine chiller. You have four-wheel drive and want to speak with managers. Have you forgotten how they came, the great and great-great-grandparents, to Minnesota? They only had each other, but their poverty was clean. Gilded years of salt and lye and thrift and Lutheran Jesus. So many sanitary hands prepared this meal. Take and eat. My body their substantiation. Sacred as the bland communion wafers. What great love than giving up? What greater love than giving up oneself to nourish others? It tastes intentional, like sacrifice in soap.
I don't know, this just really amused me because the whole idea of writing from that point of view was interesting. what does anyone want to talk about what they notice or feel about this one?
It was really fun.
And I didn't know, well, lutefisk, now I've been to Norway, apparently the wrong time of year though, but I guess it's sort of like gefilte fish. I don't know, it's like a jarred, preserved fish that is a popular Norwegian delicacy. But I didn't, so I learned from this poem. But what else do you notice? What do you think about the attitude of the lutefisk?
It's interesting to get outside of the like the human characters and like get a different perspective on their life.
Yeah, it's still reflecting. I mean, it still tells you something about the people, right? That he's speaking, like, as they said, it's a monologue, but the lutefisk really is telling you some things about the people in the community. And I love the warning, if you let your middle schooler eat the meatballs instead of the lutefisk, you're, pretty much condemning your middle schooler to this this life where he's going to become this juvenile delinquent and be vaping in the bushes or whatever.
There's lots of wisdom and depth in the subtext that's going on, both with that reference and the ancestral heritage, the poverty that was clean, and how it was to begin with. So it's quite, I think the fish is quite judgy, but quite rightly so. And I also love the slow reveal. So I accidentally read it as lutefisk lays the word of God on
Right.
which changed the context until we got to fish heaven. Then I realized my mistake. So when we got to fish heaven, I thought it was like a family pet. So the reveal at the end that they're actually eating and that the fish is part of the meal blew me away in a really good way.
Yeah, and I'm sure he meant that pun, he's very funny.
Word of cod.
and just he's a school counselor and just one of the best people you could ever want in that job. He's an incredibly compassionate person and also very funny, but all that you all have observed, I'm sure he intended, and he always kind of amazes me to they can come up with something like this and still convey that kind of wisdom and reflect on what we've gained and lost as we move into like the more convenience foods or away from some of the traditional things. Not that I think in some ways we definitely want to evolve and move away, but in other ways, to appreciate the food, the sacrifice of the fish and and the sacrifice of your ancestors who did all that in order to be here. But yeah, I just thought this was a great poem to contrast and show you the range of persona that you can go to with persona poems. Okay, where are we at? I just let's go. I don't know if we'll read another one, but here's one. I guess this one is on poetry.org or something, so it's a pretty famous one, and it is interesting. I don't know how much. I think we still have time to read another example or two, but it uses some her voice. Maybe we should. This is a kind of fun. It uses a lot of cultural references, and I was reading about it to prepare for this, and I thought it was pretty interesting. How do you all feel? Do you want to read another one just to see another way, another voice? Yeah. Okay. So, does someone want to read this one? Anybody? I'm trying to move the gallery a little bit.
I can read it if nobody else will.
Okay.
I can read it.
Whoever wants to.
Mariani, you can read.
Okay. From My Cuticles.
Yeah, so it's called
Okay.
the Motorcyclists.
Mm-hmm. My cuticles are a mess. Oh, honey, by the way, did you like my new negligee? It's a replica of one Kim Novak wore in some movie or other. I wish I had a foot-long chili dog right now. Do you like fireworks? I mean, not just one of the 4th of July, but fireworks anytime. There are people like that, you know. They're like people who like orchestra music, listen to it any time of the day. Lopsided people, that's what my father calls them. Me, I'm easy to please. I like ping pong and bobcats, shatterproof, drinking glasses, and the smell of kerosene. The crunch of carrots. I like caterpillars and whirlpools too. What I hate the most is being the first one at the scene of a bad accident. Do I smell like garlic? Are we still in Kansas? I once had a chiropractor make a pass at me. Did I ever tell you that? He said that your spine is the happiest when you're snuggling. Sounds kind of sweet now when I tell you, but he was a creep. Do you know what I have never understood what it meant? Sorry, I can't. By Crassy Knoll. It sounds so idyllic, a place to go to your dream life, not kill anybody. They should have called it something like the Grudge Notch, but I guess that's life. What is it they always say? It's always the sweetest one that breaks your heart. You get hungry yet, honey? I am. When I was 7, I sat in our fields and ate an entire eggplant right off the vine. Dad loves to tell that story, but I still can't eat eggplant. He says I'll be the first woman president. It'd be a waste since I talk so much. Which do you think which do you think the fixtures are in the bathroom at the White House, gold or brass? It'd be okay with me if they were just brass. Honey, can we stop soon? I really hate to say it, but I need a ladies' room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what do you make of her?
She seems like a joyous lady that has a lot to say.
I guess at least she's aware of that. It'd be a waste since I talk too much.
She sounds
She
like me.
kind of reminded me of like going to a diner and having the waitress just talk your ear off.
Yeah, it's so random too. I mean, it seems so random.
It's random and it's so fastly paced, isn't it? Just a snapshot of one thing and then suddenly to another. And the thing I love best of all is that at the end of it, you realise that she's on the back of a bike and the person she's talking to probably can't hear her at all
Oh, right.
because of the helmets and the road. I would imagine they're not able to hear. I've been on the
Oh,
back of
that's funny.
bikes and
I hadn't even thought of that. That's
yeah,
probably
they won't be able to hear.
that's so
I know.
funny. So it's even more of a monologue. It is definitely a monologue. I like her list of ping pong. Ping. I don't know if that's a typo. That's straight out of the thing. Ping pong and bobcats. It must be ping pong. If you're not familiar with the grassy knoll, that's where John F. Kennedy, what is it? They said but he was shot from the building, right? What was happening at the grassy knoll? Did they think there was a conspiracy theory that there was another shooter at the grassy knoll? Is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that.
So, they were making the point in the article I read that even though she seems so kind of ditzy, at least she's at least sort of aware of that. And then she says, she's offering, they should have called it something like the grudging knot. I don't know, it's just kind of funny. But then I also thought, it's interesting that it was written by a man, not that we can't write, someone another gender, or maybe I'm assuming it's a man, maybe there are female Jameses, and people are can identify any way they want. But I always thought, it's a little bit of a caricature, but at the same time, I think probably most of us have encountered someone sort of like this. So do you think it goes too far, or do you think it's like, what do you think of like the approach to the poem? Does it work, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it does.
I think it creates a pretty vivid image of this person. So I think that's basically what you're striving for. So, okay, where am I? Okay. We don't have to read another one, but this is someone else. She used to live in Los Angeles and she co-ran the LA Poetry Festival, and she's an amazing poet. And her whole book, she wrote a whole book of poems, mostly from the point of view of the female characters in is it Ulysses or the Iliad? I don't know. I have it. It's in my pile. And I'm just looking. Yeah, it's right. Nina wrote in the chat, it's comical too, which is a layer which adds a bit of a buffer to the serious on edge parts. Yeah, I like that balance. And I think Sean did that in his poem too. There's like the balance of the humor and the serious side and his philosophical lutefisk ramblings. So this one is one of her poems, just to show you that I have the link for the book I saw her read from this and it was just really great. But this is from the point of view of the eagles, Zeus's eagles. So I thought that's interesting, just to show you again that you can really do this. It doesn't have to be a person. So I can go back to those if you want, but here are some I just threw up. You may have somebody in mind already, but I just wanted to put up some examples. I wonder what happens if I do that. Okay, so let me do that. Is that better? Maybe. And okay, so here,
Yeah,
I just
it's
thought
better.
since it was Halloween, you could do Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is someone else I know whose artwork I also used yesterday, but you could write from the point of view of the person in the painting or any painting. This is from a photo by Vivian Meyer, and I just liked her expression. And I thought, I could see trying to get into her mind and say, who is this person? What's in the bag? She coming home? Where's she coming home from? You can any photo, and then just some silly things my daughter suggested. And I think his name is Steve from Minecraft. So I wasn't sure about the demographics, so I'll throw in some more current cultural references. This is a photo I took maybe about a decade ago in France, and this just, I don't know, something about this really is affecting to me. And so I thought I'd kind of like to stop and know his story. BoJack Horseman, I guess, is a popular one that I should be watching. So you could do his point of view. This is another photo by Vivian Meyer, and I thought, you can do it from the poodle's point of view. Or where's his owner? Where's her owner? Or any of these people in the background, what's going on? Or her famous icon. And threw in the gecko. I found out he has an Instagram site, and it's actually kind of cute. Or since it's election time, there's Uncle Sam. Or someone the other workshop I went to too, they were talking about you could do like, Mr. Kool-Aid or Mr. Clean, or any of those, Tony the Tiger, any cartoon character. And I thought you could, given that Sean wrote about his lutefisk, I thought, and we were talking about how the cranberry sauce usually is uneaten or neglected in a lot of the households I've been in. You could write from the point of view of the uneaten cranberry sauce. Okay, so what time is it? I don't know if you have paper, if you have a document up, but I thought if you want to take some time and think about, who you might want to try to inhabit. is it animal, vegetable, or mineral? Make a list. These are just some approaches I find helpful. Not that I always do them. Make a list of characteristics. One thing was recommending, creating like a whole questionnaire of answers, what's their historical details, what are their likes and dislikes? What is their family like? I guess it would be the same as preparing for an acting role, trying to really get embody whatever you're writing about. Their personal history. Do they have any medical or other concerns? What kind of work do they do? I think I go into this in another slide, but one thing they recommended too was doing some research. So you might have some view of, what a particular job entails, but you might research that job and find out, different things, that it's different than what you imagine, perhaps. And so I always love research. I mentioned that yesterday. I find, I go down a lot of rabbit holes and get distracted, but I find it's really fun and interesting, and it can really add to your the richness of your writing. What are their concerns, gripes, joys? So just some things to think about as you write or prepare to write. Does anyone have anything that would add to that list? No? Okay, so and I thought before might even be too early. I don't know if you want to read another example, but I think we're good because we want time at the end to share also. But I threw in a couple of my favorite quotations that I like to keep in mind. When I write, every good poem begins in language awake to its own connections. And so I was thinking, what does that word mean to me? What are my associations with it? And that to me just is something I like to think about as I'm writing. And also this I just came across not too long ago, and it's something I tell myself in life as well as in writing. Don't be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. And I guess that could speak to J. Alfred Prufrock because, with his caution. So here's a list of some of those poems. So these are some more examples, some of the ones I shared, and some other examples of some good persona poems and other resources. There's the Code of Best Conduct or whatever for is a good resource for the legal stuff. And I don't remember what the Gutenberg files had, I think, one of the poems in it, but I can share this with anyone who's interested. Circe in the Age of Instagram I think is another of Sonia's poems from that same book. But does anyone want me to go back to any of those slides? Or are you ready to, does anyone want to use any of these images? I'm sure you have access to them for the most part anyway. And if not, does anyone have any questions, or do you want to start writing? Are you all inspired and ready to go? Okay, all right, so that works out well. So we'll give 25 minutes again, and we'll come back in 25 minutes. I'll give you about a 5-minute warning, but I don't want to interrupt your flow. Okay, thank you. How about 5 more minutes, and just let me know when you're ready to come back. I realized I started a little late, but we can go a few minutes late if we have more sharing we want to do. So maybe 5 more minutes, or come back when you're ready. Okay, I'm going back on. Hi. Sorry. If everyone wants to finish their last thought or wrap up their, make a quick note, we should come back, I guess. Okay. I misread my timing, so if it's okay, if you need to leave, that's okay, but if we can stay, Lloyd said we can stay a few extra minutes, because I would love to hear if people want to share what they wrote, and we can talk about it and discuss it a little bit. So if you're back, just, and you don't want to come on camera, if you just give me a thumbs up so I know that you're back. If you want to hit the reaction. Okay, great. Okay. Does anyone want to volunteer to share what they wrote? Okay. Connie, do you want to go first, and then Andrew?
Sure. It's called Daisy's Lament. Through sun and rain I stand, offering golden pollen to the bee who passes by so casually. Where does he go? What does he see that is denied to me? I see my cousin growing near who shares my misery. What befalls her frightens me. Love me not, I hear, as white paddles cascade down. Small feet now crossing me, then I smell my cousin's scent. I sense a glow as bees return, brings my cousin back to me, joined together for eternity.
I love that. First, it's so funny because I was thinking it was Daisy Duck, and so I was then when I realized it was a flower, that was a surprise and fascinating. I love the idea of like the misery, sharing misery as these flowers. It was funny to me. Anyone want to comment on that? I thought that was a really fun one to choose, and it did have the great rhythm too. It was a little bit would it remind me of a little bit of like Robert Frost kind of in the rhyme. Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to say anything more about that?
And it's like the motion of the creatures was really kind of fun, like landing and stuff. It was really interesting.
Yeah, and all the daisies seeing passing by or whatever, and yeah, that was fun. Okay, Andrew, do you want to share yours?
Yes, it's called The Last Woman. I close my eyes, breathe deep, rich life before me on some uncharted world. I no longer can remember their names. At night, they're all the same. Inky black with endless stars, pinpricks of light, and all remind me of home, what I left behind, what I'd hoped for someday. Catalog the flora and fauna, test the soil. Will this be the newest or richest? Help in efforts to understand the whole of creation while preserving before destruction. I'm alone out here, even with the two others, one left out of countless. Myself, a preservation, a living specimen, researching for a chance to prove herself equal to them, though plucked from home resilient. But I must not despair today. I bend over I bend over variegated grass of gold and ochre, the shimmer delightful, and I upload its sequence to the database, perhaps like I have, or my family. I wish to be here on these very stars, a life forbidden, a life granted, and I must do what I can.
Wow. Post-apocalyptic or something. It definitely raised a lot of questions for me about what happened, and I think her loneliness or that whole came across. Did anyone want to talk about that?
Well, it gave me elements of sci-fi, and it felt a bit sacrificial towards the end, and I wasn't sure if she was very happy, really, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely futuristic kind of emotive. Like I really her data, you brought in like the day-to-day duties, and you wonder, you know, what drives her, and who else the others are, and you know, is the Earth completely gone, or who's receiving this data that she's sending, and from where, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of mystery about it.
it's when you said persona poem and we were talking about stuff, I was like, oh right, I have a chapbook of persona poems I need to work on. So
Oh,
this is one of
good.
those.
Isn't that great when it fills two purposes?
Yeah.
So it's got that air of kind of emptiness surrounding the speaker, and the fact that you're leaving the reader with so many questions, but the mystery is really intriguing. So it's not like a negative experience that we're sitting there reading or listening to it thinking, what? Like
Yeah, that's
part of
true.
it works really well.
Yeah, that and one of my mentors says, I forget who she's quoting, but it's end on an image and don't explain it. It does leave you going, okay, I want the sequel now, or you know.
Well, there's more.
Yeah, good. That's good. That's good. And look at the difference. You've got a daisy and the last woman somewhere in some desolate place. Does anyone else want to share? Okay, Nina, Lewis.
I wrote a really serious one, so I followed it up with a bit of a silly one. So I'll share the silly one, it's shorter.
Okay.
I can't believe you've done this to me. Why bother taking all that care, ensuring I have adequate room, that everything's clean and sealed? If every time you appear, you don't even look at me, never a touch. Why remove parts of me, transplant me here to then abandon? Look at me, I'm turning green, and it's not with envy, although you do keep choosing the salad drawer beneath me. You'll come back to me eventually, open me up disgusted. You would have devoured me if I'd been cave cheese. You managed most of the block. I would have been a delightful nibble. If I'd been brie, I would never have been binned. Camembert wouldn't be canned. Edam wouldn't be evicted. But it's tough cheddar for me. Now I'm for fungi. At least they don't ignore me. The spores are quite good conversationalists, actually. I don't get it. I mean, it's not even Christmas. And that's because the UK wastes 2.2 million kilograms of cheese every year that we buy
Oh
because
my God.
we don't eat it. So
Yeah, you got to put that out there as a public service. That was fun. The spores are quite good conversationalists is the line. Well, many lines, but I thought that was very funny. And I know somebody else, I think Robbie Nestor wrote a poem about from the point about fungus in the refrigerator. I think the prompt was something like we were talking about macro and micro, and someone said write about micro, and she went with like a refrigerator fungus, and it brought that to mind. But yeah, cheese, it's funny, we do make those differentiations between the camembert fungus and the mold, and what's a good mold and what's a bad mold. Does anyone else want to share?
It was really interesting because you start off and it's very serious and like sad and solemn, and then it's like, oh, this is a piece of sad cheese.
Sad cheese.
Which is it's really interesting because it takes us through this thing where it's like, oh man, I feel bad for this for this narrator, and then it's like it's cheese. And
Now
it's like we still feel
I'm
bad.
gonna be crying when I throw out my I know I'm very, you read about, oh, you should, cut an inch away from this and that, any bad part. And I always feel bad there's so much food waste, but it was funny because I kept going, wait, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then I found out, it was cheese. So it was, you cut parts of me away, and I thought, what is it? It was really interesting. It was fun. Lloyd, do we have time for one more or no? Is you guys ready to?
Mark.
Okay, does anyone else want to share what they wrote?
I'm sharing my.
Okay.
Well, the image of the cranberry sauce stayed with me. I wrote a little something.
Oh, there we go.
Why do they overlook me? Hey, you, look at me. I'm sumptuous. I'm and tang. Why don't you want me? I'm a fusion of pulp and juice and berry. I'm not forbidden. Just scoop me. I'd be so good for you. You could lose yourself in layers of ooze. No redder red would adorn your plate. I'll go with anything. Just try me. Why won't you try me? That's it.
I love that too. Yeah, another one. I just do feel it's funny. I always get signed the cranberry sauce. It's a tradition that I took on from my father, and I'm always trying to doctor it up. To like throw in some Grand Marnier or something. I'm like I've got to find a way to make this appealing, and still most people are very wary of the cranberry sauce. Yeah, I love the cranberry sauce too. It was kind of a seductive poem, I thought.
No, I just couldn't get the image out of my head, and I always feel sorry for food that gets ignored, and yeah, I don't like either. So
Yeah, I guess you don't do Thanksgiving there, but you have to. It's a good guilt-inducing poem.
thanks.
Instead of we heard about the starving children in China or whatever growing up, and you've got to eat all your food. Now you've got to have empathy for the uneaten cranberry sauce.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. I do like the feeling we get of, like partake in me, please.
Yeah.
This is
And
really
it's
fun.
in the red, you go with anything or whatever. I go with it or whatever. I thought that was fun. Does anyone else want to share? Derek or Edna? I know Bethany just arrived, so I don't know if anyone else wants to share. Or is that good? Does anyone have any constructive criticism or does anyone have anything that they'd like to share about what they learned or something before we go? Any other parting words? Nice, thank you.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great meeting you all, and I hope we stay in touch. I put the gyroscope link up above, and then I put my email address too. And I'll if you want any of the resources, please reach out to me, or I'll send it to Lloyd, and he can provide it also. Great. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I'm so happy because I'm kind of, I attend all these workshops and I just collect all this stuff. And so as I was preparing, over preparing, trying to bring in things that I've stolen from other workshops. So no, it's been really enjoyable. Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of the many wonderful things about workshops, is you get to share like what you've learned from other places and share them with new people.
Yeah, we were all joking when I went to Lit Youngstown. It's like, okay, and let me go to a Frosted one and a Persona one, and what can I steal from
Right.
trying to, it's like the more you gather, the more you have in your toolbox or whatever. And
Exactly, yeah.
when you're stuck, that's why I think these are the good things also to go to when you're stuck. You can go to an ekphrastic poem, or you can work on an ekphrastic piece or a persona piece, and
Yeah.
it's good. But thank you for letting me go a little long since I misjudged the timing.
No problem. We're gonna pretty much flow right into Andrew's workshop here. So
We're gonna take a break because I have to go to the bathroom.
we will take a quick break. Yes, we will take a quick break. But thank you so much, Betsy.
Oh, you're welcome. I think I'll stay on.
Workshop.
Thank you. I'm so happy. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stick around for part of Andrew's after I go to the bathroom too. Thank you so much. I hope to see you guys again. This has been really good. Thanks.
Thank you all for attending. I'm going to hit the end of the record button. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for Andrew Turner's workshop. I'll keep the Zoom room open for everybody. So.